Welcome back to The Whole Truth. I'm Gillar Bell, your attorney at law. Let me know. Okay, sorry. Welcome back. So I wanted to today discuss what Mackenzie, I consider to be the dumbest theory of Candace Owens that we've come across. And I know what a lot of you are thinking, which is, how do I pick one? She has said so many stupid things, but I found this particularly stupid, this theory, which is basically that Tyler Robinson's parents are under a gag order, and that even though they believe their son is innocent, and even though statements attributed to them were basically the predicate of the entire arrest of Tyler Robinson, that they are ordered by the court and advised by their attorneys not to speak to the media, and were somehow precluded from testifying during the preliminary hearing. 1 second, I'm just going to fix my video. And again, this theory is so stupid for so many reasons, but not least of which it's just, the law is supposed to reflect common sense and justice. Now, there's a lot of times that the law gets stuck in procedural technicalities, but overall, it's supposed to make sense. And the idea that parents' statements were used as the basis for the initial arrest of a case, and yet they deny making those statements. And sorry if you're hearing my baby in the background with my wife and her nanny. But where was I? So the idea that they would not be allowed to testify about that or go to the media with that information is just absurd. And you guys, I'm sorry, but I need to just check to see on my baby what is going on. I'm going to be right back. Sorry, the life of a lawyer that works from home. Okay, so I'm going to I've researched this. There is a gag order in place that was ordered by the judge in the Tyler Robinson case, but it does not apply to Tyler Robinson's parents. And again, if they wanted to say that the statements attributed to them, basically in which Tyler Robinson admitted to the murder, if they wanted to say that that's false, they cannot be stopped by the court. They would be going to the media, and they would have testified at the preliminary hearing. So the idea otherwise is just retarded. And to me, it's especially retarded because it basically just undermines the whole idea of our criminal justice system. To imagine that parents would not even be allowed to tell the media that their child is being framed and set up, and even when they said, or statements attributed to them, that their child admitted to it, they can't even deny that. It's just retarded. So let's start with what the gag order actually says and who it applies to. Okay. So again, the idea that Tyler Robinson's parents may actually be sitting here wanting to tell everybody our son never confessed to us, law enforcement falsely attributed those statements to us, but they can't say it because they're under a gag order. There's two main problems with this argument, or this theory. First, it's not what the gag order actually says. Second, and this is actually more important, if law enforcement actually fabricated statements from Tyler Robinson's parents and then used those statements to establish probable cause, that would be potentially a major constitutional issue for the defense. So why would they be forced to deny it? Why would they be denied the ability to deny it? So let's start with what the government actually alleges. According to the public filings, Tyler Robinson's father became suspicious after seeing images released by law enforcement. The information, which is like the charging document, the criminal complaint, says Tyler's father believed the rifle shown by police resembled the rifle that had been given to Tyler. More importantly, the information alleges that during ensuing discussions between the family members and Tyler Robinson, Tyler implied that he was the shooter, that he could not go to jail, and allegedly made statements concerning Charlie Kirk and hatred. The filings then describe the family becoming involved in arranging Tyler's surrender. Another search warrant affidavit goes even further. According to that affidavit, former deputy of, I think sheriff's deputy, Mike Mitchell, who's the family friend, told investigators that Tyler Robinson's father told him that Tyler confessed to being the shooter. Now, I'm not saying that these statements are necessarily true. That's not the point of this video. They could be false. It could be that Mike Mitchell lied. It could be that the government lied. The point is that there is nothing stopping the parents from telling the media or from taking the stand during the preliminary hearing that those statements were lies. Nothing legally stopping them. So let's go on. So again, Candace Owens is saying that these statements are false, but that some gag order prevents them from saying this. So let's take a look at the actual gag order put in place in this case by Judge Graf. He issued a publicity order regarding the attorneys not to make extrajudicial statements outside of court that could be prejudicial to the case or divulging any confidential information. So that publicity order only regulates the attorneys associated with the case. It does not impose a blanket gag order on the witnesses. And specifically, the court actually clarified that the order does not regulate the conduct of a person merely because that person happens to be a potential non-attorney witness. So unless there's some different order that we don't know about, the gag order does not apply to anyone but the attorneys involved in this case. But let's say that, hold on one second. There is a Supreme Court case, a U.S. Supreme Court case, that deals with precisely this type of situation. It's called Franks versus Delaware, and the case involves Law enforcement knowingly and intentionally, or with reckless disregard for the truth, putting a materially false statement into a warrant affidavit. The Constitution provides a mechanism for the defendant to challenge it. If the defense makes a substantial preliminary showing, it can obtain what is called a Frank's hearing, named after this case. And if the defense ultimately establishes that the deliberate or reckless falsehood is taken out, can be taken out of the information, then the court asks, does the remaining truthful information still establish probable cause? And if that's not the case, the whole case may be thrown out. So, in other words, this would be a big problem for the prosecution if it were true. And the defense has a mechanism, a procedural mechanism to challenge the whole information if it turns out that these statements were false. If they were falsified or recklessly included and are false, recklessly included by law enforcement, the defense has a procedural mechanism to get potentially the whole case dismissed. So again, the main point here is that Candace Owens is so stupid, she just makes stuff up out of her ass. It's literally just whatever she says, just feels like saying, she just makes it up. To assume that the defense witnesses, the parents, are under this gag order not to speak out about something so significant as their own statements being attributed to them, it's just so retarded. If you hear it from Candace, it's probably wrong. I just really wanted to share this. I gotta end this live, but I just wanted to share this thought because it's ridiculous to imagine that Tyler Robinson's parents believe their son is being framed. Their statements attributed to them were used for the probable cause, and yet they're somehow bound by the court not to say anything to the media, and we're not called by the defense. It's ridiculous. So thank you, everyone. I just wanted to say that, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream, and maybe I will come back another time.